And yeah, very welcome to the Siebel Friday for August 22. So of course the big topic, the elephant in the room, is Siebel 22.8, a action-packed update, and we'll dive in all the details. I'm hoping we can have a lively discussion about those features, as some of them might affect projects all over the globe. So let's start right with the look at the highlights. So the plan is to, well, talk about 22.8, and there are a lot of topics that can spin off from that. So 22.8 introduces a few very interesting features and enhancements. So that is, okay, some people have audio problems, but okay, people can hear me, right? Just Carrie and Brian have trouble. Okay. Okay, but the recording is there. So function-based indexes is introduced. Of course, probably you're running function-based indexes on your Siebel database as we speak, but now there's a twist to it. Email response. People using email response will find a very interesting and important feature, the OAuth 2 support for inbound IMAP POP3 with Microsoft Exchange Online. Loyalty users will have a few enhancements in the REST area. So we'll take a look at those. And then there's other few things that grabbed my attention when I browsed through the various documents and through the repository before and after, and there was an increase in column length to the runtime or client-side business service script. So those scripts that you can edit in the client, we all know what it is. And every script now in modern Siebel is actually a CLOB, character large object, and this is the last one to have migrated to the larger column size from those 16K to now 20 megs, or, well, 20 megs is what it says in the repository, but I don't know if that's 20 megs or whatever a CLOB means on that database. However, it's much larger now. Then we have the Stealth business service, XSL to XML converter, which features the JSON to PS and vice versa conversion, is now included in the repository upgrade. There's selective screenshot capture for test automation. If you use test automation, that's interesting. And Tomcat gets regular updates with the Siebel update. It's now 9.064. So as usual, whenever you feel like adding a commenting on any of these things, then please shout out or hit the chat. So monitoring the chat. And so let's talk about those function-based indexes. Maybe you can quickly type in the chat and raise your hands of sorts. Are you already deploying function-based indexes on your Oracle or IBM DB2 databases? That's the question.
Hey, Alex. It's Jason.
Hi, Jason.
We use 4 or 5 function-based indexes, and so this is a very welcome feature, being able to keep our logical and physical schemas in sync.
Yeah, Brian says he hopes no one is using it because it's not supported. Yeah, you wouldn't know what DBAs do all the time. Yeah, of course it's a non-standard extension of the database. You get into all kinds of trouble. Is that right? Is right, Jason? when you do it
Yes.
in 22.7 and before, but now 22.8, the big thing is it's quite big. In my opinion, there is a schema change. There are 2 new columns in a repository table. I don't know the last time when that happened. Well, with workspaces, obviously, but there are 2 new properties on the index column object definition. So now you can define a flag, so mark it as an expression. You see that highlighted on the slide, and then you can enter an expression next to the column name. So I put in an example I used with SoundX, the SoundX function, or any function or larger expression. Well, there is a limit to it. It's 255 characters. That's what it says on the tin. But still, as Jason has said, you can now put your logical definition of a function-based index in the Siebel repository, so it's fully supported. And of course, it goes all the way when you apply it. It will be in the database, and it will be migrated with the schema service of the migration app, and so forth. So, yeah, quite a good thing to have. And this is applied when you run the Siebel 22.8 update. You get this repository extension of sort. All right. The next feature that is quite important, as there is a deadline approaching for administrators using anything outbound that connects Siebel using communication drivers to Exchange Online, Microsoft Exchange Online. If you connect to that server, you will have to use OAuth authentication or anything other than basic authentication, basically, effective October 1st. So that's when Microsoft announced that's the date when they start deprecating or turning off. I'm not too much into the topic, but that's definitely a date administrators are watching. So the basic authentication goes away. And Siebel has in 22.7 or earlier no support for using basic auth with the outbound requests, making the request to Exchange Online. So that changes 22.8.
Inbound.
Well, Siebel making the request to fetch the emails or send emails.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
No, sending doesn't apply, only retrieving.
Okay, retrieving. So
it's not SMTP. It's
right,
only the retrieving.
You're correct. So it's inbound in sort that an email is coming incoming into Siebel. However, there's a request from Siebel through
sure.
Outbound too. So it's communication two-way. Okay, but
Auth 2.0 also, Alex, that'll be the only option. It's not other than basic. It's
right.
OAuth 2.
Right.
There's a difference. They won't take any other type of authentication either.
Yes. So Siebel 22.8 and higher supports OAuth 2.0 exclusively. No others. Well, basic auth would still.
No. Sorry, Alex. I'm maybe speaking wrong. Siebel still supports it, but Exchange Online won't.
Yes.
We'll support anything.
Right. Okay. Let's get it.
If I may, I also want to kind of do a shout out here. If you are using email response with Microsoft Exchange Online or Office 365, and you don't know about this, contact me. Because the concern I have is that people on the Siebel teams at a customer site or partners working with customer are currently using email response, but they're Siebel people. They have no idea that Microsoft's about to do this. Their normal IT team would know about it, but may not realize Siebel's using it. It could have been there for years, right? So this may come as a big surprise out of nowhere to people. Yeah. So if you have this issue, let me know so I can work with you on that.
Okay, thanks, Brian. You heard the man. So but there are the implications, of course. You have to update to 22.8, definitely, or upgrade even if you're before IP16 or IP16 earlier. So it's last call basically. 1st October is in like 5 weeks. It's not much time. And if you come from a version before 21.3, you also have to migrate to the 64-bit JRE using the Tomcat. So there might be, depending on the version you're coming from, there might be a lot of work actually ahead, a lot of testing. So that's why it's probably a time issue as well. So Brian says in the chat, Microsoft announced this long ago, but did not actually provide the actual OAuth capability until June. Okay, so Microsoft lagged on this.
Yeah, we didn't get a whole lot of time to do this.
Right. Okay. So let's hope everything goes smoothly for customers who are, well, unaware of this, and there might be some of them. All right, but that's big news, and that's one reason to, well, stay up to date with your Siebel environment, and not to stay behind on old versions, because you get those capabilities. So here I put in a slide from an older presentation 21.3. Last year there was this introduction of the removal of the 32-bit JRE for email response. So you have to migrate your settings to support the 64-bit Java on the SES or Tomcat that resides with the Siebel server. So that's a necessity, especially if your version is currently 21.2 or below, and you're updating to 22.8 or anything in the future. So you have to do two things if you're using email response with Microsoft Exchange Online. And Brian adds in the chat, you can also ask Microsoft for a 3-month extension from October 1st. Okay, that's very generous. Okay, anyone wants to chime in on this topic? Okay, so everything said and understood, and Brian offers his help. So loyalty, of course, it's a elite application for, well, large deployments, and enhancements in loyalty include the actually a lot of underlying business object, business components, integration objects, workflow process, business services change, are updated or introduced to support more REST calls. And actually, a new REST API is born with 22.8. It's the loyalty REST API. It's another industry REST API documented in the REST guide as a collection of REST calls that you can make in the loyalty area. So together with the product administration or pricing administration or telco REST API. So they're now, this is a growing area. So in the details are that there is now support for cascading deletion of member data and transactions, implementing basically the already implemented, hopefully, right to be forgotten or privacy laws, regulations, such as the GDPR in the European Union. Basically, I hope that everybody running Siebel with EU customers has that already implemented somehow. But now, of course, there's support. And that's supported through a REST call. It's a business service that you can call. And there are also some workflow processes I saw quickly. And in general, to retrieve data faster through the REST API, there's a new or two new business components called LWA, Lightweight API. I hope I can call them thin business components like we did in the old days. These are the trimmed down business component copies of the member and transaction. And as having fewer fields, fewer joins, fewer multi-value links, etc., they are behaving much better in a situation where data is fetched. And that's, of course, a good thing. And that's a technique many customers use to speed up their APIs. And then as I said, the loyalty REST API is now documented in the REST guide. 22.8 or higher. Right. Any comments on loyalty? Okay. No, nothing there. So, yeah, the next thing is not new. This has been under discussion for quite a few Siebel Fridays. This stealth business service that some people see and some people don't in their repositories, Siebel XSL to XML Convertor. And that business service, despite the name says XSL and XML. It might have something to do with that, but it's used in the outbound REST framework to handle the conversion from JSON to property set and property set to JSON. And that, of course, makes it very, very attractive to developers. And in the prior Siebel Fridays, we talked a lot about actually, if you don't see that business service, you can create your own. It's a Java business service, so all you need to set is the same class and the same user property pointing to the Java class, because that jar file is already on your servers. So it's very simple to set up a business service with any name, a custom business service that uses the same Java class and provides the same functionality. So that's a workaround we presented a while ago. But now, if you're really keen on having that standard business service in your design repository, you can, well, you have to, if you don't have it, you have to run a repository upgrade. It's now included in that CIF file that comes with 22.8 for repository upgrade. So it will be part of your design repository if you do the optional repository upgrade. So that's good news, and brings me also to a discussion about the repository upgrade, which I would like to entertain here. So let's hoping for people to join in. It could be quite a lengthy procedure to apply the repository upgrade just for one business service. Let's say I want this XML to XSL converter, and so I hear it's in the repository upgrade, so I run it. But the last time I never run the repository upgrade on my Siebel environment. So what happens then is that, of course, it applies all the repository upgrades from the beginning. That's 22.3, that's the first. So if you have never done a repository upgrade and you go to 22.8 straight, you get, it takes like several hours to import all the CIF files with 200 plus new or activated object definitions, 90 plus updates. That's a count I did on 22.6, by the way, so it's much more now. It's a lot more maybe now. And also making the repository upgrade also makes schema changes, import seed data, and manifest for OpenUI. So what I'm interested in...
Post-install DB setup does the schema, seed data, and manifest as well. Okay, Brian, yeah, of course that's true. But there's certain, let's say if there's a schema change related to repository upgrade, it applies schema changes as well, right? Sure.
Yeah,
they tend to apply, anything in there is going to be something specific to a feature.
Right, yes.
Whereas the stuff in post-install DB setup is stuff that's fundamental to the application working, yeah, or things that are on tables customers can't touch anyway, such as the new expression and expression flag that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, but the repository upgrade is like, people think of it mostly as a vehicle to import CIF files, to put it bluntly, but they have to be aware, and I had a discussion with a customer, let's say, we just run it, and then we have that workspace, the integration workspace with a dev workspace. So what if we don't deliver it? We essentially have no repository upgrade, right? I said it's only half true because you might have, and you probably have, schema changes already done in your database. Seed data imported in some tables like LOVs and the manifest changes. They wouldn't affect you much, but to revert, to roll back from a repository upgrade that you did not finish, you basically have to go to a backup, restore backup completely. But that's not what I'm interested. I'm interested in actually how often do you do a repository upgrade in the field? So, and I started a poll on YouTube. So those YouTube polls, let me go there. So let me send the link in the chat. So that takes you to the Siebel Hub YouTube channel. We've done some polls before, and let me refresh that page. So the question is, okay, there's already been one answer. When updating to the latest Siebel release, do you also run the non-mandatory repository upgrade? And possible answers are never. So you never run it, you ignore it. Deciding based on the content, so you look into it and say, okay, this time we run it, or you run it once every few updates just to keep up with Oracle, like this person answered, or you run it always as a rule. With every update, you also run the repository upgrade. So yeah, would be quite interesting to hear what's the situation on the field. Or any comments, and the chat is of course welcome here.
Yeah, it appeared we needed to run it to take advantage of workspace enabled tasks, at least based on the release notes when we looked into it.
That was a mistake.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I thought. But yeah, we're currently overwhelmed with the number of cumulative changes because we've not applied the repository upgrade since upgrading to IP 2017, and it does impact a large number of loyalty objects, which I mean is great because we're in the loyalty space, and we're happy to see the new features and improvements. But it means a lot of conflict resolution. So we're going through that, but right now it feels like we just did a major upgrade and we're going through IRM.
Okay. So thanks Jason for this. Yeah, if your application basically gets a lot of enhancements from Oracle, it feels like what you're saying feels more like IRM than just update.
That's
well,
great.
But he's also saying they haven't done it in such a long time that the cumulative volume makes it feel like IRM.
Yeah.
Is that right, Jason? Like I mean, if you were to do it release to release, it's fast. I mean, yeah, generally it's pretty quick. I mean, unless there's some major thing. I know Duke Medical had some. They don't want the changes that are in there, but
it's only because clinical's in there.
It's fairly fast.
That's because clinicals will screw us up.
Yeah, because you'd already customized it so much.
Yeah, we could ignore that one piece. We would do every release.
Well,
okay, so
Nick, let's talk about that. I think we can do that. We'll just have to talk about the technique.
Okay, that's cool.
We'll talk some offline.
Yeah, what Brian says, I think, is very important, that the cumulative volume can be, and as Jason used the word, overwhelming. And Dinesh says in the chat that the 21.4 to 21.7, so that's like 15 months worth, 15 versions, 15 releases, took 6 hours, 13 minutes just to run repository upgrade, right? Just the technical runtime of the process, I guess, what you're saying, Dinesh. Thanks.
By the way, I would suggest running it on your Siebel server, not on your tools box, if that's what you're doing. It doesn't require tools.
when we initiated the repository upgrade. It was from this.
You're barely audible, Dinesh.
I'm sorry. So we initiated from the Siebel server itself, not from the tools. This upgrade is from 21.4 to 20.7. I mean, we just ran it yesterday itself. It took us almost like 6 hours, 30 minutes.
Wow.
Okay. So yeah, it's the cumulation, is that a word? Or the culmination of object definitions in the ZIF file. So you get, for each release, you get one ZIF file that's imported. And the more time the more version, the bigger the version gap is, the more you have to take care of in times of the runtime. Like Florian says, it took less time, but I worked with Florian on that. I had to repeat it 2 to 3 times because there were some issues with duplicate records and stuff, and you have to go to a rebase. You have to go through a rebase, do conflict resolution. So there's a lot of effort if a lot of time is between the last repository upgrade and the current. Let's say a lot of time, let's say 1 year is already a lot, but it's very common for corporations to update only once a year. So that's a discussion I would like to fire up here a little bit. And yeah, thanks for your replies in the chat and for your comments.
Something else I'll mention is, and I believe in this release, it's not necessarily, it's not a quote feature. I don't think we would have announced it specifically, but, and if not, it'll be in a very soon feature. We've taken away the ability to run repository upgrade against main, because anyone doing that was forcing the all or nothing, because now it's there right under main. And if you deliver it, you get everything. So you can't even run it against main anymore, or perhaps shortly won't be able to run it against main. It'll force you to create another integration branch
so it's
under main or whatever, so that you have somewhere to stage that with your changes and make sure everything's going to work together properly.
So, but it creates an integration branch currently as well.
Right, but it will not create that one under main anymore.
Okay. So
to prevent this situation where it is all or nothing, and also to prevent you from being in a situation where you can't really test. You need to test it in conjunction with your changes as well.
Right,
if you think about repository upgrade, you can just think of it as like some giant ZIF file that some developer went off and developed on their own and handed it to you.
Yeah, the good people at
you wouldn't check that into something right under main.
Right.
You'd have an integration branch for some future release that you're already working on with your customizations in it. You would create it under that one and merge the Siebel Oracle changes with your changes and make sure everything still works in that integration branch.
Right.
Which is what I was hinting at with Nick, is if he could identify the objects that would disturb his, then he could inactivate them before merging to his integration workspace.
Yeah, so that would be effectively an option for customers to opt out
right.
of an
of a particular
change.
thing. I mean, we're not going to make it modular to the point where you can pick and choose, because it's impossible for us to test every combination,
right?
Because
yeah.
it's 2 to the nth power for options. But a customer could pick out a particular one and say, okay, I'm just not taking that updates to that BizComp or to that workflow or whatever it may be.
Right. Okay, so yeah, that's good to hear that there will be some upgrades to repository upgrade in the future. Okay, so yeah, thanks for voting on the poll. I see just refreshing one more time. See 6 votes, and well, deciding based on the content is the favorite now, of course, and nobody of those 6 people says we run it always. Well, that might change in the future when you realize, okay, it might be better just to run it every time you update, to be able to do what Brian said, to test and deactivate stuff and so forth. Okay, so well, that's interesting, to say the least. Thanks much for all the participation. Anything else to say about that topic? Repository upgrade? No. All right. Let's carry on with features in 22.8. Is not stopping there. Test automation. It's not the most popular feature I noticed. So many people use combination of Siebel test automation and other test automation suites. But if you use the DISA-based test automation, then DISA 22.8 comes with a new feature that allows to tell it to take screenshots or not take screenshots. There was a feature introduced in 22.8, like 1 year ago, where you can have no report or a detailed report for data security. And now that extends more or less to screenshots. So you have 4 settings. You have everything turned off, so no report or full report. But in between, you can have a report without any screenshots. Even if you have that screenshot flag set in the test step, or there's a fail step, there's no screenshot taken. And for fail steps, it's taken by default. And you can opt out for report with selected screenshots only. So only where the screenshot flag is set, you get a screenshot. But if a step fails, there's still no screenshot to, I guess, prevent data from being exposed in a graphics file in some folder, because that's probably it's privacy what it's all about. Nick says in regarding test automation, I just don't have time to learn it all. Says Nick, be great if there were Siebel test automation for dummies. Okay, Nick, coming to that. Siebel Hub has got you covered. Yeah, so here we are at this slide that never changes much in the last few years. The update path is still the same, so I'm not going there. Be reminded that on YouTube, of course, you will know that, preaching to the wrong crowd. We have regular monthly update summaries. I get an awful lot of views actually in the first 5 days for the 22.8 summary. So thanks everybody who watches that. And also the Siebel Friday replays are there. So make sure you check out the YouTube channel, just sharing the link one more time with you. And in a lot of videos that we put out there for free, we point to the Siebel CRM Training page on the Siebel Hub. And I know that you're all aware, I talk a lot about this, that the Siebel Hub, that's Black Sheep IT Consulting, on-demand consulting, and the Siebel Hub, which is our partnership page. We are very proud to actually have a growing and almost complete curriculum of modern Siebel CRM training that is always up to date. Now with monthly updates, that's quite a challenge. So that's my job description, to update training. We have that famous Siebel 22 workshop. So that's renamed every year and of course updated. That's the What's New workshop. And picking up on Nick's comment in the chat, let me quickly go there to the modules, sharing that link. And this course is fully modular, so you can either take it free. Some modules are free, but most modules are available for a very reasonable price, a video recording. And there's one on test automation, ready to teach you everything about test automation in modern Siebel IP17 and higher. So yeah, just clicking the link to see this takes you right to the shop. You see the very reasonable pricing for content like this. And why I'm telling you every time. Of course, people like us, Siebel veterans who have 20 plus years with Siebel, we still have to keep up with Siebel. There's a lot of innovation from Oracle. Thanks very much. And like data visualization 22.5. And we're happy to provide a chapter on that. So you can learn on that new feature that didn't exist before. So you can then, well, update your knowledge. And once we record, of course, on any version that's available, like 22.1. We recorded a lot of these chapters. So now you might say, okay, that's recorded in 22.1, and there's just so much going on. That must be an old training. That's not true, because while it's being recorded on a certain version, we keep tabs on all the relevant updates, and we have published a new page for that. Now it's public basically now. It's the continuous updates page for people who use our training. So they have a link to the relevant section, like let's say REST API, they're taking the REST API video. And so they have all the relevant updates for each version with a link to the free update summary on YouTube. And the link has a timestamp, so it takes you right to the spot. So if you watch the video on 22.1, you have to watch a few more minutes of video and you're up to date. And that's included for free when you buy the training. So you don't have to purchase these updates. So that's another service of the Siebel Hub. And this page has grown so much in the months I've been editing it that I decided to make it public simply as a archive of sorts of all the good things that happen in a version. It starts with 22.2. And you see that there's quite a lot of things, the cumulative, as Brian said, cumulative changes to Siebel that pile up literally. And if you see it like that, then, for example, discussing a repository upgrade in your project might make more sense. Say, okay, this is really a lot we get, and some of this is in a repository upgrade only. And I'm sharing the link to that page to you. So it's a public page. You can use it for your own good, even if you don't have any videos from us. And speaking of videos, we're also very happy to announce 2 new courses. One is in the order management area. So we have finished our curriculum for Siebel order management. So now there's product administration, infrastructure, all that, RSTT and PSP engine. And now we have a pricing module with several quite juicy topics as well. So if you're interested in learning order management for real, or have new hires, there's a new generation of Siebel developers learning Siebel, trying to get a grip on Siebel. Of course, they are engaged in modern Siebel versions, and this training is really up to date. If you run Siebel order management, I think that's a must-have training for your new hires. And we've been busy. The developer essentials. Speaking of new hires, fresh developers, I'm really happy to tell everybody over the past 2 years, I've literally trained more than 100 new hires, new developers and administrators for Siebel projects. That doesn't sound like much, but it's definitely a sign that the market is picking up and a new generation is coming in. And they have never heard about Siebel before, and they're fresh from college. So you have to give them the full bootcamp style training, which is now complete as a video training. So the Developer Essentials is now available as a 4-chapter video training, starting with the beginner level of 101, the Developer Essentials proper, all about business components, applets. And then there's an integration chapter you can take to learn all about Siebel integration, and there's some extension chapters. So yeah, if you have a situation where you're hiring Siebel staff, developers or administrators, yeah, drop me an email so we can fix up the right agenda, a tailored agenda for your team. So I'm sharing one more link in the chat for the developer essentials. So that's the reboot of the bootcamp I wanted to talk about in my notes, and I've also shown you the continuous updates page, which you might find useful. I hope you do. And well, that's it from my side. Anything else that you want to discuss today? The call is open, microphones are open, chat is open. Okay. Not everyone at the same time. All right. Okay, scanning the chat, nothing there. Okay. So if there's nothing else, I'd say thank you for your time and for being a part of the experience that is Siebel Friday. Hope to see you next time, and yeah, stay tuned. Have a nice weekend. Yeah, thanks, Florian. You too.
Okay,
Thanks, Alex. Bye. Thanks. Bye.
Take care, Alex.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, have a nice weekend. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.